Tea Party Republican designation into the general when you go up head-to-head with Cody?
We have no change planned for our slogan. It would be rather disrespectful to the electorate to change it, I think. I've been involved with the Tea Party. I'm a Tea Party person. I will be accused of being a Tea Party person, and I'll wear that flag proudly. The issue more is understanding what the Tea Party stands for. The Tea Party stands for constitutionally limited government. I believe in constitutionally limited government, which simply means that we have a document called the Constitution. It's our playbook. It outlines how we're structured, what our government stands for, what we, the people, can expect from our government. I think the people can and should expect their government to live up to that document. It doesn't say that the government should be all things to all people. We tried to do that. We're broke. People realize that now. The second thing the Tea Party stands for, which I fully endorse, is fiscal responsibility. This spending that we're doing, that is now evident, and over the past 2 years, story after story after story. I mean, when you listen to radio, and they say, you know, are you in credit card problems? The first thing you should do is cut up your credit card. Hello? Same answer at the state level. First thing we ought to do is stop buying things we cannot afford. Now, we have a bigger problem than that. We've already bought things that we can't afford to pay for, and that's what brings up the pension problem, where we have an outstanding, unfunded liability of $142 billion, according to the one report I read. You know, play around with the numbers, 10 billion one way or the other, it's immaterial. It would take shutting down the entire state government for more than 5 years. In other words, the government would not spend a penny on anything. No police, no fire, no hospitals, no college subsidies, nothing for more than 5 years, for us to be able to devote all of our tax revenue into that unfunded liability to come out to a zero balance, where we don't have any more debt. But how can we do that?
It's unworkable.
You can't do that. So mathematically, unless some wizard is a whole lot better than I am, there's no way we're ever going to be able to meet that obligation. It's mathematically impossible to achieve. And I believe the result is that you're seeing Mr. Sweeney and Mr. Christie, dramatically different people, talk about pension reform, about the steps that need to be taken now before the entire pension system collapses, before everybody loses everything. None of us want that.
Well, now a couple of questions come immediately to mind. First of all, Mr. Sweeney and Mr. Christie getting to work on addressing the problem and the steps taken. First and foremost, are these steps going to be enough to even initially stanch the flow? Because right now we're hemorrhaging. And it seems to me, from my cursory examination of the budget debate going on in Trenton, that we're talking about a couple of band-aids where a tourniquet is really needed. The approach, as I see it, appears to be a band-aid approach. Do you see it differently?
Let me use your analogy. Okay. A person has an aortic aneurysm, okay? The blood vessels supplying the heart are bleeding, hemorrhaging. And what does a doctor do? He's got to start somewhere, okay? So you begin with small steps to catheterize or to cut off the flow of blood in order to start the process. And I think that that's what we're seeing. I don't think that Mr. Christie or Mr. Sweeney would represent that the steps that are being discussed right now are going to fix the problem. But we have two sides that are exceptionally polarized. One side says, the conservative side, we can't continue this way, we're going off the cliff. And in supporting their argument is the approaching cliff. I mean, it's pretty clear we are at the end of the rope. It's not rhetoric, it's not just an accusation. The cliff is clearly in sight. The other side says we don't want to change the benefits we have. And so we all have an obligation to sit down around a table and start to look at the total picture before total disaster happens. I have a close friend was an airline pilot for Eastern Airlines. When Eastern Airlines went bankrupt, it was a sudden kind of thing. Nobody knew what was happening. This particular young man knew the chairman of Eastern Airlines, said good morning to him at an airport in the morning. By the time his flight ended and he got off the plane he was piloting, the company was belly up and everything was over. There was no pension. Everything had been shut down to zero. Gone. It was more than $1 million pension he was expecting. Gone. He had to, in his mid to late 60s, I don't know exactly, he had to begin again, get new employment, and find a new employer to try and build up some kind of a nest egg for his now long postponed retirement. I don't want that happening to our people in New Jersey. But the bottom line is that's going to happen if we don't fix this problem. So what's going to happen is people are going to have to pay more, people are going to have to expect less, and we're going to have to work toward the middle to find out what can we reasonably achieve that keeps people as whole as it's mathematically possible to do. And I don't have a magic wand, but I understand the problem. And in my experience over 40 years of public policy work throughout New Jersey, I've always had to try and bring sides together, sometimes in very oppositional situations. And so as one voice going to Trenton arguing for reason and with some experience trying to get people to come around the table to solve problems, that's part of the skill set I hope to bring to Trenton. We're going to have to reset a lot to make New Jersey work again. I'm not a subscriber to a tax increase, and here's why. I don't think we can increase taxes in New Jersey anymore unless we're going to build that, that infamous fence around the border first and lock people in so they can't escape. We have already seen what raising taxes is doing to our population. We're losing it. The reason that we did the redistricting is because, in part, we've lost population. We're now beginning our congressional redistricting. One time, New Jersey had 16 congressmen. We're going down to 12 in this next cycle. That's because we're losing population. It's not because I'm saying we're losing population. It's because we're losing people. We're losing wealth. We're losing income. Now, we have less money coming in. Everybody knows that they're not seeing new pharmaceutical companies move into New Jersey. You're seeing little bits and pieces occasionally, but not like we saw in the 50s and 60s. At one time we had Bell Telephone Laboratories, gone. We had Alcatel-Lucent, gone. Way much smaller than they were. And across the board we're seeing businesses close down. I ran the New Jersey Tooling and Manufacturing Association, trade association of tool and die companies statewide.
You don't see those anymore.
Gone.
They're gone.
They're gone. Yeah. Now, part of it's global competition, of course. But the bottom line is, all that revenue that New Jersey used to have is gone. So how do we deal with that? We can either be real and look at what has to be done, or we can deny it and go off the cliff. I don't like going off cliffs. It's it's not the fall so much as the sudden deceleration at the end. Exactly. It hurts. I don't want that to happen to our people.
Well, everything that you've gone through, I'd say for the past maybe 10 minutes, a wonderfully detailed, expert analysis of the current situation. How are you going to distill your message effectively? I'll ask you right now, could you bullet point it for me? Say 3 or 4, maybe even 5 main bullet points. If you were going to approach me and say, I'm just John, average voter. Bill, why should I vote for you? What are you going to do to change New Jersey? Tell me. Why do you deserve my vote? Bullet point it for me.
I don't think it's hard, Gene. I think Dick Cody has been in office for 38 years. He's held every public office you can. He's been in the Assembly, he's been in the Senate, been President of the Senate, been Governor. Are you better off now than you were 38 years ago? 20 years ago? 10 years ago? 5 years ago?
2 years ago.
People? No. I don't need to describe big macroeconomics. All I need to do is ask the voter, how are you doing? And with very, very, very few exceptions, they're going to tell me I'm hurting.
Now, you've encountered this because when you were campaigning during the primary, you did a whole door-to-door.
Yeah.
About how many houses did you and your campaign have a chance to visit?
In excess of 4,000.
Okay, and it's in effect,
all 14 towns.
the responses you got
We called every one of them.
almost form a poll of sorts, a survey.
Absolutely.
And what was the result of that survey?
People are saying they're hurting. People are in deep concern. The rhetoric is great. You know, the billboards that say, you know, the millionaire thing that the NJEA has done. The problem with their billboards is the membership of the NJEA is getting very itchy about that. They're saying, you know, this is not where my dues are supposed to be spent. So the NJEA, as an example, is having some real internal turmoil develop. That turmoil is evident in other organizations as well. Union people are not any different than non-union people. They want to bring their kids up. They want to have a successful life. They want to take care of their family. They want to have opportunities that they, you know, that they're for their children that they didn't have. You know, we all want better. The problem is, when I grew up, I believed I could have better than my parents had, and they did too. Today, people don't believe that.
Right.
So all I need to do is have a very simple conversation with them. How have these spend and tax things worked for you? And, you know, occasionally you'll hit somebody to say, well, you know, I've on a gravy train. I've got a really nice little gravy train deal going on here. Even there I'll say, well, how long do you think that's going to last? And they'll say, well, I'm getting kind of itchy. I don't think it's going to last a whole lot longer. So that's somebody that's in good shape. Somebody that's not in good shape is saying, I'm dying here. The facts are on the table. It's very clear. This is not a sales pitch. This is not something where I'm trying to say I'm a neater, better dressed guy than the other guy. Vote for me because I'm cool. This is hard, cold reality that's hit. And it doesn't need a lot of sales. People are really beginning to catch it. And that's what changes everything here. We talk money. I mean, Dick Cody has clearly a very large financial war chest. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to have a very large war chest. There are many people who are deeply concerned about the direction that the state is going and where things are. And many of those people have financial stakes in the outcome. If the state succeeds, they can make money again. If the state fails, they're going to lose a lot. So their money's on the table too. And then there's the question of people. The machines of the Democrats have been built historically upon people who collect public salaries being told basically, you've got a day off, you go campaign for me, or you won't have a job tomorrow. Now, not always, but there's enough of that around that you know, it's known. I happen to have an army of people as well. Some are calling it Bill's Brigade out there, which I think is pretty funny. But they're everyday people who are the people who created jobs, who have run businesses, who have sent their kids to college and seen that their kids are unemployed at the moment. People like me, where my son had to leave New Jersey for work because he couldn't find it here. He's employed in Massachusetts, of all places. Wow, you know. So I think the story tells itself. We're going to augment that. It doesn't require long, detailed scientific explanations. It needs some face-to-face, eyeball-to-eyeball, heart-to-heart talk with people, and they get it.